Hi class, it's Paul here from New York. When I saw that we could do a video as opposed to writing something, I chose to do a video because I will do anything to get out of writing a writing assignment. So for my interview, I interviewed my friend Yuriko. She is 22 and she is a Japanese exchange student studying at New York City, at New York University, and she is from Sendai. So we went to one of her favorite izakaya. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is basically like a pub in Japan. So here in New York, it was a Japanese style pub. Yeah, we had a couple of drinks and talked, and we had a really good time. I began with some pretty basic questions. My first two questions were, what do you like most about living in the United States, and what do you like least about living in the United States? Right off the bat, her answer to the first question, what she likes most about living in the United States, she said was, let me open my chicken scratch here. She said that she really enjoyed the convenience and diversity of people. She doesn't feel like an outsider. So she gave me this perspective, like, if I were to come to Japan to live there, I would essentially be, deemed an outsider, and I would have more of a difficult acclimation. Whereas here, especially living in the city, she feels as though she's, accepted. Then I asked her what she liked the least about Japan, or about the United States, and she replied the dirtiness and the poor hygiene. So that's things she liked the least. I asked her what surprised you most about living in the United States after those two questions, or three questions. And she said she'd always heard about how open and friendly Americans are, but she wanted to see her for herself. So that's kind of what surprised her the most, is how people here openly show love and affection, that it's fairly common to hug somebody when you meet them first, whereas in Japan that would be a no-no. Question 4, I asked her, how have you personally grown and changed as a person studying abroad? I myself, I studied abroad in Germany in high school, and changed me so many ways. So I wanted to ask her what her opinions, what she felt was her answer, so I could see if our answers aligned. And she says, I've become less shy. I say more what's on my mind. I'm not as anxious. I used to be I'm not as anxious as I used to be, because I realize life always works out in the end. She said, it's going to be okay. I'm not as nervous about my job, about my career, about starting a family. She's like, I'm content with who I am. Whereas before her experience here in the States, she wasn't, I guess. Okay. Question 5, I asked her, what are your thoughts on our healthcare system? Have you had to use it? She chuckled at this one. She said, no, luckily I've never had to use it. She said, she did mention to me, she said that she doesn't really know the logistics of our healthcare system, because it's so complicated. It's difficult to navigate, which is true. But she compared it to healthcare in Japan, where she says 70% of her healthcare costs are paid for by the government, and healthcare for children is free and it's subsidized by the government. So she basically left with the question. She doesn't understand why it's so expensive here. I think there are many factors that go into that, but if you guys have any opinions on that, leave a comment, like and subscribe. No, I'm kidding. Let's see, question 6. I asked her, oh, this is a good one. I said, it is often said that Americans perceive themselves as the center of the universe. Do you find this to be true? Why or why not? And she said, yeah, absolutely. She said, all you really need to do is take a trip on the subway and you'll see this, she quotes, a me first attitude. So basically she told me that there's a lack of etiquette here, and that is directly correlated to individualism in the United States. So, she said things like, a guy will come and sit on the subway and he'll be taking up a whole bench because he's, spreading his legs as far as they can go. Or an old woman, a pregnant lady, an old man, a person who, clearly should not be standing, comes onto the train and nobody gets up for that person. What else did she say? Oh yeah, she said she saw a lot of people who don't wear masks on the train, and it's just kind of, she says, that's all. That's kind of what exudes this me first, I'm an individual, let me be me attitude. Okay. We're at question 7, I believe. Oh yeah, I asked her, do you feel as though you have fully adapted to American culture? Explain. She gave me a mixed response on this one. She said, yes and no. I feel like I'm accepted for who I am here without question, and therefore am adapted. However, there are still many things I miss about home, so it makes me feel less adapted. So she basically told me it's an ongoing journey, but overall, she feels pretty comfortable here. And that led me to my follow-up question, which was, if you could import one custom or practice from your home country to the United States, what would it be and why? And her response was the courtesy and respect that you find in Japanese culture. And she said I believe she said her first 3 years as a primary school student focused less on homework and assignments, but more on respect towards your elders and saying please and thank you, and cleaning, making sure the space around you is tidy, making sure that you take ownership of what belongs to you and that you understand how your actions affect the people around you. She said that this is basically the basis of Japanese culture. And so I asked her if she could give me some specifics. And just at the top of her head, she said bowing, giving up your seat to a stranger in need, wearing a mask. And I asked her, why are and she also said presenting, if I hand you, a card, I give it with both hands. And I asked her, why is this, also important to you? What does it matter if I give you my card with, my right hand, my left hand, or both hands? And she said, it's all about intention. Why are you doing this? I forget how she exactly put it, but it was very beautiful. She said intention and harmony. She said, when we do these things, everything kind of just flows together easily. And that was rather difficult for my American brain to understand, but I guess the more I think about it, the more I get it. Overall, we had a really good time, and I really appreciated that she took the time to answer my questions. And yeah, I can't believe this course has come to an end. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.